Like I said, that imposter syndrome, it's a table for me here. And I didn't even know it was a table for me here. And you see all these amazing people. And you like, they're talking about, oh, we have a $2 million budget. We got a $500K budget. My salary is $200K, or my salary is $100,000. And you're working on this strategic plan, or we just got a lawyer on retainer. I'm like, wait a minute.
What the heck? What I got myself into?
Really, and it set the bar for me.
Yeah.
And I think one of our essentials is basically embracing yourself as a CEO.
Absolutely.
And I can say now I fully embrace that.
Welcome to another episode of Leaders in the Spotlight with me, Taiji Charity.
This podcast is for C-suite leaders to discuss their experiences and provide insight, encouragement, and inspiration for seasoned and inspiring leaders, offering valuable solutions to today's challenges that will inspire, ignite, and invigorate new and seasoned leaders to walk in their God-given authority with compassion, kindness, and empathy. So sit back, relax, and be prepared to be inspired with today's episode of
Leaders in the Spotlight.
Thank you.
Welcome to another episode of Leaders in the Spotlight, where we navigate the highs, lows, and unexpected plot twists of leadership. I'm Taiji Charity, your host. Today, y'all, I got my girl. I have the honor of speaking with the visionary Dynasty Taylor, a trailblazing CEO, social worker, and South Los Angeles native whose commitment to transforming lives is nothing short of extraordinary. At just 23 years old, during her first year of graduate school at USC, Dynasty founded Dynasty United Youth Association, which is DUYA, a powerhouse nonprofit dedicated to breaking cycles of poverty through education and empowerment. Armed with a master's in social work, she has relentlessly designed programs, written grants, and developed curriculums that provide underserved youth with the tools to thrive. Beyond leading DUYA, Dynasty serves as a public social service commissioner for one of our favorite supervisors, Supervisor Holly Mitchell in District 2. She shapes policies that uplift marginalized communities. Her work has garnered national recognition with features in the LA Times, New York Times, and Points of Light. Dynasty is more than a leader, y'all. She's a catalyst for change, ensuring that young people don't just survive, but they thrive.
Yes.
Destiny, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yes, I'm so excited as well. This is some great work you're doing here. I'm really impressed.
Oh,
Yeah.
Girl, impressive starting a nonprofit at 23 years old. Let's talk about that, okay?
Yes.
How?
How?
Like the need, like how did you see the need, or when did you see the need, and
Yeah.
how did you, because I'm thinking
Yeah.
back when I was 23 years old. I'm like, oh, Jesus. So
Yeah.
tell me like the mission and how you got started.
Well, I first have to talk about the environment I grew up in. I grew up in Baldwin Village, and Baldwin Village has a urban area, but it also has an area which we call the low income area, the area of poverty. So basically, growing up there, both my parents were gang members. So my mom was 15 when she conceived me. My father was 16. And then from there, 3 weeks after I was conceived, my father received a 26-year sentence to life as a juvenile.
Wow.
So that left my mother 15 years old, still a high school student. We were living off of social government assistance, from Section 8 to food stamps to WIC to child care. And from that experience, navigating life wasn't really easy for me. And I was raised by my maternal grandparents, luckily, who were also faced in their shared responsibilities and substance abuse. So I was exposed to a lot. So that was the personal part of just having to figure out life with a mother who was growing up and didn't really know. She was a baby having a baby.
Yeah.
And then I had a father who was convicted by the criminal justice system for murder. So just trying to navigate being with a single mother, growing up in the hood, and trying to figure out what that poverty, how it affected my life and the people around me, and just the substance abuse. You know, growing up in that community, you know, our role models were gangsters and pimps and hustlers. You know, we didn't really have an idea of what it looked like to even grow or what prosperity even looks like.
Yeah.
That was the personal element that was like, this growing up and even trying to navigate life was really tough for me. Then the other portion was just the public schools, growing up in public schools. If you're usually staying in the inner city of South LA, you're attending a public school. And some of the public schools, we didn't have the resources, the books, the funding, sometimes the teachers that can really pour into us and give us the necessary tools for us to scale the way that we needed to. So I remember going to Cal State Northridge, and I was accepted into there from Dorsey High School, and I took my pre-placement exam so that they can be able to identify what courses I need to enroll in. When I took the exam, I failed both the English and the math. That means when you do that, you end up spending more time in college than you normally would, because college is only supposed to be about 4 years for your bachelor's degree. It took me 5 years because I spent the first year focusing on my general education courses. And if you don't complete those courses, you get stumped out. So having to navigate, I'm not really being raised by my parents growing up. I had to navigate life. I even went down pathways where I also was a part of gang life and engaged with the wrong crowd. People hurted me. I was hurting people. I lied. I did a lot of things, was part of juvenile hall at a point in time, had a probation officer. And so when I finally was able to get accepted to CSUN and actually get exposed to opportunities, I seen how much it changed my life. You know, when I first went to CSUN, I spoke in slang. I dressed like a young girl coming from the hood because I just didn't know my worth. I didn't know that there was a seat at the table for me in this world. And so because of that, I was like, wait, if I made it here, I know how hard it was for me to make it here. So it made me say, let me go back and help the people that were like me, the child that, what do you do when you don't have your own cheerleader? What if you come to a household where people don't expect for you to thrive? Not because they don't want to see you thrive, they don't know what that looks like, and it's too much for them to swallow. What does it look like when you walk out the house and nobody cares about if you go to school, if you get a job, if you actually want to do something for yourself? What does it look like being a part of the crab in a bucket analogy, where while you're trying to go up this ladder, people are pulling you down because they don't want to be left behind. And I was one of those people that left a lot of people behind so that I can do what I needed to do. Meaning my little sister and my little brother, I couldn't help them the way I wanted to help them because I had to help myself. So me coming back was more of that idea that I can't just be the girl that came from South LA and just become successful. And I know how hard it was. I need to go back and make sure that I put things in place for other people to prosper as well, and also identify what prosperity looks like, because when you come from the hood, you don't even know you can prosper. All you do is live in survival all the time. You know, we live in a mindset of, I got to do whatever I got to do, and I'll step on whoever I got to step on to get there. And that mentality only works so well for so long. But when you're willing to go beyond what you may be here on this earth to do, sometimes you can't even navigate it because you don't see it around you. And I was one of those people that was like, when God allowed me to be able to see what I was able to do, it scared me sometimes. I didn't know, and sometimes I was discouraged, or I didn't feel like I deserved to be there, but I still was pushing through because I wanted to get away from that poverty mentality, that poverty environment, and just that poverty lifestyle. I just had, so that was a way of coming into it. It's like my personal issue of growing up in those family dynamics where I could have been built to fail. And then it was the other dynamic of growing up in a public system and seeing how we were not really prepared for what we needed to do. So that was enough frustration within itself.
Ooh, girl, you need to be on Oprah's couch right now on that. Where are they now? I mean, it's just so powerful. I mean, resilience beyond resilience. But what drove you to have that presence of mind? Because exposure is everything, right? Being able to be exposed so you can see what opportunities are out there so you can make a well-informed decision. Like, what was that turning point for you that said, nah, I ain't about this life. I can't be about this life because there's something much greater and much bigger for me? Like, did something happen to cause that pivotal turn or mindset for you as a young lady?
Yeah, it was something that, it was a few situations. For one, being in juvenile hall. I was in juvenile hall for robbery, and I was looking at a 10 to 11 year sentence. I received a DA reject because it was not enough evidence to go against the case. That was one situation. I still wasn't listening to what my grandmother was saying that I needed to be doing. So I kept being in the street, hanging out with the wrong people. Then it was to a point where I was in a car accident and I was driving under the influence, and I had one of my friends in the car, and I almost killed me and her in a car accident. And so when they came to the scene, and I just seen the faces of my grandmother and my grandfather crying, and I end up almost killing my friend and seeing her parents, you know, distraught. It was like, wow, one decision can change my whole life, and it can hurt other people.
Yeah.
You know, and just being young, being defiant. You know, my dad wasn't around, so it was like, well, nobody cares. My mom in the street doing her thing. So I felt like being in the streets was the place for me to go. Yeah. But being in the streets, you start to wander because you got that outside influence that's stronger than church sermons. It just, you just excited about doing wrong, you know, because it feels good. You get away with it. It's an adrenaline, and everybody else is doing it, so why not?
Right.
And it got to the point where I had that accident where I almost killed me and my friend. I was 19 years old, and if I would have died that day, I wouldn't have been able to go back to see son that day. I would have been able to continue the exposure and opportunities that was there for me. So I remember my grandmother and my grandfather sat with me, and they said, Dynasty, the road that you're going down, you're going to end up dying. You end up hurting somebody, or you're going to be in jail for a long time. You already see your mom in and out of prison. You know, that's still happening to this day, and I'm 34 years old. I'm still dealing with my mom in and out the prison. You already have your father in prison. Like, is this the life that you want to live? Yeah. And I think just knowing that I could have killed somebody or killed myself, it was like, I'm just going to go to school and just do what I got to do.
That was a wake-up call.
It was a wake-up call, just because I just wanted to be alive to see it. You know, I was messing up.
Sound like God allowed that to happen so you can tap into just the purpose and what he has for you that's so much bigger than where you were, the environment.
Yeah.
Whoo, girl, look, I'm trying to contain myself because I want to run all around this studio right now, because you are the voice that our young people need to hear, to know and be reminded that you don't have to be stuck. Yeah. Where you're raised, where you were born is only part of your story. Yeah. You get to make decisions about your life to bring you out. And there are people that, like you, who've already done it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Latch onto those role models, latch onto those mentors. So now that you're on this journey, CEO of your own nonprofit organization, did you have mentors to kind of help you along the way? How did you start the organization? What made you start? I know you wanted to kind of give back, not kind of, but give back to your community. But how did you put all these pieces together?
Well, I basically was at USC. I was in my second year of grad school. Okay. A lot of the courses at USC are kind of preparing you for what you want to focus on in your career.
Right. You were studying social work, right?
Yeah, social work. So that kind of focused on sociology, human behavior, systems, environments. And so one thing is that I was in class, and I was in a grant writing class, and we were writing grants for books for students to have extra books at school. We ended up writing a grant, and then we actually received the $500. Wow. And so that was my first time writing a grant. And I was like, wow, this writing works. Like, this pen can get to work. And like,
this pen work for you, girl.
This pen made some magic. And so when I seen that happen, you also had to write, if you had money, what would you do with it? And that is where DUYA was birthed. I said, if I had money, I would create an after-school program, and I would have all the kids come together, and I'm going to provide education, mentorship. I'm going to put all these programs in place. And I remember some of the students in my class was like, Dynasty, we just trying to write a paper. You going too far with trying to start a business. Like,
y'all don't know my life.
Y'all don't know my life, right? And so what was interesting is I went to the website and I found out how to start a nonprofit. I was in between starting a group home and a nonprofit. Okay. But because I worked in a group home, and because I worked in case management in a group home, and I seen how many fights I had to break up, I said, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Right. So I end up going with the nonprofit, and then it basically gave you the series of steps of what you had to do, which was file your articles of incorporation, reserve your business name, file with the Secretary of State. And when I first received that, I started to go to consultants, just any type of consultant, to kind of see how much would it cost for me to incorporate DUYA. And the numbers were astronomical for me. I was only, at that time, I was like 22 21 or 22, I'm like, I'm not paying you guys $2,500 to
Right.
do this for me. I didn't have
Right.
the money. And so from there, I said, you know what, if you're in a master's degree program and you're writing grants and you're writing 25-page papers and receiving A's, because I did graduate from USC with a 3.9 GPA. I have
Come
to share
on now.
that.
Come on,
So,
3 point what now?
3.9.
You better tell them.
3.9, only because I got a few A minuses, but I got all A's.
Yes.
And so I said, if I wrote papers for universities that professors that had the expertise and the competence to grade them, then I can basically do my own paperwork.
Yes.
So I completed my own articles of incorporation. I completed my own 501c3 tax exemption.
Come on now, talk about
I found
it.
my own sponsor, physical sponsor, because of course at that time I needed a fiscal sponsor
sponsor.
before actually obtaining my own tax exemption status.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through that process, and that's kind of like how it started. It started from just being in class and, you know, receiving a grant for my first project, and then writing about some of our ideas of what we can do in our community. And I just was one of those people that made it to action.
Girl, let me sip some water. You going,
Yeah, I was serious.
powerful, just so powerful. Tell us the mission of DUYA. And it's how many years now?
We just made 11 years, February 10th. of this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's huge. A lot of nonprofits
it
don't make
is.
it past 5 years.
Especially the pandemic.
Look, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole other
that's
conversation.
A whole nother
So
conversation.
A lot of companies didn't make it, so
But
I
you
have
did.
to acknowledge that. Yes, and I made it, and I made it through. And so our mission is to empower underserved youth to rise from poverty to prosperity. That's it.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. That's all we're trying to do.
And you're doing that through education.
Through education. So we have 2 programs under DUYA. We have the DUYA Academy, where we provide education interventions, evidence-based for grades K through 12 at charter schools, public schools, juvenile community day schools, and family source centers. And then we have the other element, which is the DUYA Institute, where we are basically providing entry-level opportunities and apprenticeships for folks who are interested in education. So if you're someone who is interested in education and seeking employment, sometimes if you don't have experience, a lot of these bigger institutions don't want to hire you. So we provide apprentices the opportunity to come in as an academic tutor, and after they complete a certain amount of hours, at the end they get to choose 3 different pathways: teacher's assistant, instructional coach, and program coordinator. Through that 1-year experience, we're hoping that they walk away with identifying which pathway they want to go into in education.
That's good.
And basically, we help them find employment after they finish the apprenticeship with some of the schools they probably worked at with us.
Amazing. And you wrote the curriculum for
I
your
wrote the
program.
curriculum.
Of course you did.
Yes, I did. Yes,
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
And you've trademarked a lot of your material, have you? Or is something you've been working on?
You know what? I was only exposed to trademark because of City Scholars.
Oh, so let's just give some reference. So Dynasty and I know each other through City Scholars,
Yes.
which is a leadership program for CEOs that lead youth organizations that work with youth. And so that's where Dynasty and I met.
Yes.
You joined City Scholars, what, 2 years ago or a year ago?
A year ago.
A year ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're in City Scholars, which we can talk about that because I've had a few guests.
Yes.
We love City Scholars.
Yes, we do.
love Kellyanne because she does not play.
She does not play.
At all.
At all.
Love it.
Yes.
You need a mentor? That's your
Yes.
girl. Okay.
Right.
So you learned about trademarking your material through City Scholars. So where are you in that process?
So we actually just got approved in December of last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It took like about 90 days, and Public Counsel assisted with that for anybody who wants to know. They do assist you with your trademarking. So I haven't figured out how I'm going to use it in terms of intellectual property as of now, but I at least made sure that we had the registration in process.
Good.
So now we can kind of figure out how we're going to strategize and use it within the organization.
You talk about a mover and a shaker.
Yeah.
A mover, because you take the information and then you go back and you apply what you're learning. So what has City Scholar been like, that just in that environment with CEOs from, $50+ million budgets to as low as I think probably maybe 500,000 or something like that might be the range of leaders that are there in terms of their operating budget. What has it been like for you?
The first year was intimidating because
Been there.
you walk in there and you're just like, wow, like I said, that imposter syndrome, it's a table for me here. And I didn't even know it was a table for me here. And you see all these amazing people. And you like, they're talking about, oh, we have a $2 million budget. We got a $500K budget. My salary is $200K, or my salary is $100,000. And you're working on this strategic plan, or we just got a lawyer on retainer. I'm like, wait a minute.
What the heck? What I got myself into?
Really, and it set the bar for me.
Yeah.
And I think one of our essentials is basically embracing yourself as a CEO.
Absolutely.
And I can say now I fully embrace that. You know, it really helps you. Just the roundtable discussions allows you to problem solve, critically think, and hear from real people in real time about their experiences. Not just the glitter and glam and the success, but I noticed that there was a lot of tears and a lot of worries and a lot of planning and a lot of funding that went behind a lot of folks' initiatives.
Absolutely.
And that right there really was like, okay, I am supposed to be here.
Yeah. And it's normal.
Yeah, it's
like,
normal.
I don't feel like I was doing something wrong because we all go through some of the same things.
Yes.
As CEOs, and being in that space and seeing and hearing from other leaders, it normalizes. You're just like, oh, okay, I'm on the right track.
Yeah. I'm on the right track, but it took a long time. It took about 6-7 months for me to know that I was supposed to be there, because I had to hear other stories. Some of those stories are far-fetched. You know, like, I've never made $1 million. I probably made over $1 million in the last couple of years of working, but just in 1 year and receiving a grant with $1 million, I have not seen that in my life as of yet. So City Scholars let you know what's possible.
Yes.
It lets you know that it's possible. And it's like, now I feel like I deserve to be there, regardless of whoever's budget is, because I get to learn 5-10 years ahead of time what it's like, and they get to prepare me 5-10 years ahead of time, so I don't have to make some of the same mistakes that I've seen other people go through.
Absolutely.
And be open to tell you, like, Dynasty, make sure you do this, because you don't want to take this route, because that route take you somewhere else. And then teaching you how to be strategic and confident in what you do. I think sometimes nonprofit leaders, of what I've noticed, are usually more older in the game, have been in their careers a long time, and then they quit their careers and then go into nonprofit. I was one of them that was building myself and building DUYA at the same time. So it was like my baby. And so it was kind of like, okay, I'm here, but I'm still kind of like outside a little bit. I'm still trying to figure out my life a little bit. Like, I don't have no kids. I'm not married yet. And I'm like, people like have wives. I'm like, wow, this table is a real kitchen cabinet, you know, and that's what City Scholars is for me. But I'm definitely out of that intimidation now, because now I see people. I don't see CEOs. I see people that happen to be CEOs, because you guys are all beautiful people and help contribute to my life right now. So.
Well, don't get it twisted, honey, because you be teaching too. You learning, but you teaching too. Okay? You be dropping some gems. I'm like, what the heck did she just, let me write that down. So you're not just sitting at the table, you're contributing to the table.
Now, yes, for sure.
It's good. And that first year is overwhelming. This is my 8th year in City Scholars. And that first year, I was right where you are, feeling that same sense of what the heck, and wanting to try to go back. What are they doing? Let me try to implement this. Let me try to, it's like, wait, pace for the long haul. You have to slow down to catch up. You got to pace yourself on this journey, and your mission has to be greater than the fears and the insecurities and all the things that kind of, create that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, for sure.
So let's get back to DUYA. Let's talk about, you are in your 11th year. How big is your team?
So we have about 12 people right now, and out of those 12, 3 of us are full-time, because I finally have an administrative team.
Yes,
I've had one since City Scholars.
Let me sip to that.
Admin is important. You know, you got to have help. And then the rest of our staff comprise of 1 counselor, and then we have the rest are tutors of our team. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you find your team? How were you able to build your team? What were you looking for when you were bringing on your full-time employees?
Well, you know, I first started in the volunteer community for a long time before I was able to actually receive any employees.
Okay.
But now I really receive them from universities and community colleges.
Okay.
I know a few professors, so I tell them, like, hey, I got this great opportunity that we're doing in the social impact world.
Smart.
I need someone who has administrative assistance in this type of experience, and I need someone who has passion for working with young people and that's been working in the classrooms or after school settings. So I started to work with the institutions. I'm one of those nonprofit leaders that believe in not doing the work by myself and not working, what do they say, work smarter.
Smarter, not harder.
So I'm like, Well, I know I'm working with people in child development and I'm working with people in education, so let me reach out to the education department. And then there's times that, the working pool can be a little slow, so then sometimes I have to go through Indeed, but a lot of it has come through educational institutions in that way. Yeah.
How are you establishing the culture, or what is the culture of DUYA? Like, what is it now, and what do you envision the culture being for your organization?
I think in terms of leadership, the culture is basically just empathy, communication, and transparency.
That's good.
And it's so important. It's so important. I have had probably over 60 employees in the past 11 years. And 99% of them have said, when I first came to DUYA, I've never had a boss that actually cares about me, that asks me what I think, how I feel about something, that actually says, hey, when I'm calling off sick, that they're not mad at me for calling off sick, right? And that cares about what I'm able to contribute. And I think that's my culture as a leader. I work with a lot of young people. I think I work from the ages of 24 all the way up to like 35. Okay. So I work with people who are still evolving every day. That's making those mistakes that some big companies wouldn't really allow or accept.
Right.
But I feel that these youth have a lot to contribute. They have innovation. They have ideas. They think on a different scale. So the fact that they know that I care about what they know, that's what keeps me with a tight team. And then when it comes to my tutors, there was all about our students. Always, because I let them know, like, your position as a tutor is not just an educator. You're like their parent, you're their mentor.
Relationship. You got to have a connection.
Yeah.
Heard someone say connection before correction. You got to have that connection with them. So having tutors that know how to connect with young people is very important.
And that cultural competence.
That's good.
I've seen the difference from some of my Latino tutors teaching my Black students. I've seen the difference. I've seen how it impacts some of the data, because it's trying to figure out, how do I approach? How do I interact? How do I support these students? And I've seen the interactions from some of my Black tutors who were working with Latino students. It's different, because you have multi-language learners, you have students with IEPs, you have students that want to learn, you got students that don't want to learn, and you got students that's unmotivated. So the strategies that you might use for a student that wants to learn is not going to be the same strategies you use for a student that is not motivated. And learning to understand that perspective and still have the same empathy for both sides of these students, that's what's important to me. So they know that the importance is, we got to have cultural competence. We have to be vulnerable and share with each other what may feel uncomfortable. How did you feel working with this student that may have been of another ethnicity to you? Because we face that in the work. And when you're working in education, there's not a training that talks about cultural competence, because I've been in the education sector for a long time. I started off as a school counselor, and I noticed when it came around race or anything like that, people didn't want to talk about that. It's an uncomfortable conversation. But if you just take out the race and let's talk about kids and their environments, and their families, that's what matters. That's what matters.
Just dropping all the wisdom, things that you would think make common sense, right? And it's not common for everyone.
It's not common.
Right?
It's not common.
So I want to know, in terms of your data, how do you collect data and how do you assess your data?
Right. That's a great question, because that's what DUYA is all about. That's the reason why we are expanding and in demand right now. One of them is our summative assessments. That's basically, what are we doing over the time period to kind of check our balances throughout. So one of them is that we have to have consistent communication with the administrators by meeting with them monthly to give them updates about the students' progress. We also have attendance checks every day to make sure that they're attending. We also do progress reports that we send out to the parents every week to let them know how the students are doing from the tutoring sessions and how they're progressing with the mastery checks. So the mastery checks are done at the end of each tutoring session, 2 days out the week. So we're checking their progress, not just the knowledge they know when they came into the session, but the knowledge that they obtained throughout. And then we also do the formative assessments, and that's when we have the pre and post diagnostics that show where the student, what level the student was at when they first came into tutoring, and then what level after the 7-week or 8-week cohort of when they ended tutoring. So you're able to see if they grew or they regressed and why.
That's
and
good.
then the other part to that is having a SWOT analysis meeting with the administrators, talking about what went for the program and the program and the partnership. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are opportunities? And also, what are our threats?
Yeah.
And so that data portion is so important, and I think a lot of nonprofits need to know that, because if you can't really measure where you're going, you have to know where you're at in order to figure that out.
Right, that part.
You know, so our data
part.
has been pretty good. Based on our data, it also shares that our students have went from 1 grade level to 2 or 3 based on our curriculum. So it's really working.
I got the goosebumps. Your family
Yeah.
must be so proud. I mean, do they understand what you do? I mean, have they really like that's my girl, that's my baby. Like, do they understand like the significance and importance of your work?
I wish I can be as candid to be as honest as possible about that.
Okay.
But what I can say is that I believe that they care.
Okay, gotcha.
I believe that they
That's
care.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. How many kids do you serve?
We serve about 300 plus students a year now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Being a young leader like yourself, what advice would you give other young leaders or young people who have this ambition to say, I want to live above my circumstance, or young people who just say, I want to start a nonprofit. What do I do? What advice would you share?
I think just putting it on paper, taking time with yourself and putting it on paper of what you want to do. It's something powerful about writing your goals down or writing your to-do list and checking it off. But I think when you're able to articulate what you want, and if you don't know what you want, having a conversation with someone who may not be of kin to you that can help guide you in figuring out what you want. The reason why I think that it's important to establish what you really want and having conversations, even if it takes 2-3 years of having continuous conversations, I just think it's important for you to know where you stand in this world, what you contribute to this world. You know, also checking to see if you have any competitors. How do you basically separate yourself? Identifying what type of partners you want to work with, what type of where you're going to get your funding from. What type of curriculum you're going to use, what type of funding that you want to support. So I feel like really sitting down and figuring out what you want to do and why, because everything comes back to the why. If you don't know why you're doing it, when it does get tough and them storms come, it's going to be easier for you to shut down. So you have to have
you got to know that why.
You have to know why you're doing it. That's so just good. What it is. You have to know why.
Girl, when you said write it down, I know my executive producer was over there on the side trying about to hop out of her chair, okay? Because she believes in journaling and writing it all down. So I know, powerful. Okay, they telling me I got to wrap up, but I got like 2 more questions before we wrap up.
Okay.
Who are some of your favorite leaders?
My favorite leader, my first favorite leader was Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah
Winfrey. That was my first favorite leader. My second favorite leader.
You need to be on Oprah's couch, like I said from the beginning.
I've been writing it down. That one haven't came off the paper yet. But
you gonna get there. Oprah. You need to meet Miss Dynasty.
She needs to come. I need to meet her ASAP. My second one is, of course, Michelle Obama.
Oh, Lord, girl, you dropping the big ones.
Yeah, I really do love me some Michelle Obama. She's a representation. I'm glad that we were able to experience that with her.
Yeah.
And then my next leader is Beyonce. I believe, because it's not about her, the other things, the accolades. I just like the way that woman works hard.
She grinds.
And
it's evident in her work and the empire that she's built. Yeah.
And that's why she is the way she is today. She grinds. So sometimes when I feel discouraged, I can put all 3 of these women on my TV and see the elements when they struggled and had struggles. And I was like, okay, now I know. And so those are some of my top leaders that I first initially started with. And then I want to just add this person, Brene Brown. Because she's a social worker, and I'm a social worker.
She be dropped, girl. I be pulling up those quotes from her. I'm like, what did she say? Just so, I mean,
I love
some
Brene
very
Brown.
powerful leaders. And stories matter.
Yes.
Like them sharing their stories help you to see some of your own things and help you set some of your own, aspirations and things, because you're like, wow, if you did it, that kind of empowers me to say, I can do this.
Yes.
I can do this.
Yes.
Well, you're doing it.
Thank you.
And you are doing it very well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Congratulations. It
Thank
is
you.
such a joy. I'm like, I've been having you on my list. I'm like, I got to get to Dynasty. I got to have Dynasty on to share her story. But I've learned things about you that I didn't even know. So thank you.
Yeah.
Keep doing amazing work. We're going to make sure we share all of the social media platforms and how people can reach you. You got some books coming out soon. I have
to. I got to give my life. I really have to do that. People have been telling me that, and I'm like, I really have to do
that.
That
book's got to come. Y'all, come on, y'all drop some comments in the chat and be like, Dynasty, where's the book? Where is the book?
Where's the book?
Look, your name is Dynasty, but destiny is all over you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for tuning in. I know today you have heard something to inspire you on your leadership journey. So please do those 3 magical words: like, share, subscribe, drop a few comments in the chat. And until next time, have an amazing day on your leadership journey. Bye now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. I hope you were inspired and you gained some valuable nuggets that will help you to become a better leader and to walk in your God-given authority. Bye until next time.